Top recording button.
Hey guys, it's Max Mikowski here, and today I'm going to show you an SDR utility called CSDR. Now CSDR, it's very flexible in what it can do. It's mainly meant for demodulating different types of radio signals, AM, FM, SSB, LSB, all that stuff. But it's similar to RTL FM, but it can do a lot more. It's also a lot more complex, but like I said before, it gives you a lot more control over filtering and just like how you want the audio to sound. So I have the Debian version installed. It's the newer version. There's two different versions. I've got it here in DistroBots. Now you can compile this from source. I'll put the Git Hub link in the description. This is the newer version where the command syntax is a little bit easier to understand. And so let's start with a simple example. Let's just demodulate AM. So we're going to start out, instead of using RTL FM, we're going to get the raw IQ data from the SDR itself and demodulate it. So to do that, we're going to use, instead of using RTL FM like we did before, which gives us audio, we want raw IQ samples. So RTL FM can give us that, but we will be using just the regular RTL SDR utility, which is like literally meant for this. It's a raw IQ recorder. It can pipe to a, you can send the data to a file, or you can just send it directly to standard out. And we're going to send it to standard out and pipe it to CSDR. So the way CSDR works, it was built with pipes in mind. You literally pipe data to it. You do one function with CSDR, then you pipe it to another instance of CSDR that does another task, and you keep doing that until you get audio. So let's start with AM. RTL underscore SDR. Now we'll want a decent sample rate for this. Unfortunately, the RTL SDR blog and other RTL SDRs have some sample rate limitations. So let's set the sample rate to 240,000. And for AM, you want the gain at a reasonable amount, because the gain, unlike FM, AM uses amplitude modulation. So whatever the gain of the IQ is set to, that's going to be your audio level. So let's do a gain of 40. That should give us some sound. And the frequency, let's do 1370 AM.
1,370,000.
Which is 1,370,000 hertz. Or 1370 kilohertz, which is how AM is measured. And then to tell RTL SDR to send everything to standard out, we'll use dash. And now here's where we pipe to CSDR. So RTL SDR outputs 8-bit IQ data. And CSDR can't work with 8-bit data, so we have to convert it to 32-bit float internally for it to be able to work with it. So after the pipe symbol, you type in CSDR. The command is convert. Input format is char, or character for short. And then the output is float. Okay, so we've done that. But now how do we get audio? Well, before we even do that, our sample rate is way too large right now. So we pipe to CSDR again to another instance of it, CSDR. Now we need to decimate that, because right now our sample rate is 240,000 samples per second. We want something that audio can play. So instead of 240,000, if we decimate by, your decimation factor is how you divide that up. If you divide it by 5, you'll get a sample rate of 48,000 samples per second. If you divide it by 10, you'll get 24,000. If you divide by 15, you'll get, I believe, 16,000, and so on. So for us right now, we just want something sane. For AM, you really don't need much more than, I'd say, 24,000. So to decimate the signal, the command is firdecimate.
Firdecimate.
Now we have to tell it the decimation factor. So we're going to do decimation factor of 10. And now it does filter by default, but we want the transition bandwidth to be a little bit more aggressive. So I'm going to type in for that. The next parameter is the transition bandwidth, which is
0.
I think it's like 0.05 by default for AM. You want it more like 0.005.
0.005.
And there are other parameters you can pass to that function, but we don't need to give it any. So next, we're ready to convert this into an audio signal. So the command to do that is amdemod. amdemod. Make sure you put CSDR before. CSDR amdemod. There we go. And now, so we could just play it back as it is, but most audio players cannot play back 32-bit float, except for, well, I know Sox can. So, to convert it to S16, which is 16-bit PCM, you pipe again to CSDR, convert, just like we did before. Now for the input, which is -I, we're going to specify float. And then for the output, we're going to specify S16. Now we can pipe it to Sox's play command or Als's A play, but we're going to do Sox. Play, type is S16, channels is 1. We got to specify the rate, which is 24,000. And then dash. If this is typed in correctly, we will hear some form of audio. Yeah. What did I do wrong? Yeah, I don't know why it's sounding that way. Let me see. I typed 240,000, not 24,000. Okay. So, I did this on purpose. I wanted it to come out really bad. You can clearly tell right now that the audio, it sounds really quiet. So if we go back up to our above command, after AM demodulation, there's more that you have to do to get the audio to actually sound good. You can't just convert it to something playable. So first of all, it sounded like DC offset is a real thing, and it does exist on AM signals, so we need a DC blocking filter. If you don't have that, you can sometimes hear distortion in the audio when it's playing back. And basically it's an offset from 0, so your speaker basically gets pushed one way. So before where we convert it to audio, I'm going to type CSDR DC block. Okay, that's one thing we have to do. Now another thing, you could also tell that the audio is super quiet. Now one way to fix this, which I did do somewhat, is just turn the gain way up. Another way you can do it for AM signals is you can use automatic gain control, which is what I'm going to do here. So we're going to do another pipe, CSDR, AGC. Now we want the AGC to be limited. Obviously, if we don't limit it, we will get clipping. So we pass another flag, another pipe, CSDR, limit. We're going to do 1.0. Now if we play it, that sounds way better. And yes, this is a Spanish station. This is all I can get on AM. Okay, so that's one station. Now, we can also do shortwave. So if I go, I'll just hit the up arrow to get to the command again. If we type in, let's try and get WWV. So let's do 20 million. And hit enter and see what we get. I don't have anything on that frequency, which I'm not surprised about. Let's try 10 hertz. Yeah, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Now, there is a shorthand form to type the frequencies, and I'll show that next. So instead of typing out the hertz, there is a shortcut. You can just type 10 M. That'll give us to 10 megahertz. Of course, there's nothing on that frequency right now. But that's how you do that. Yeah, I don't get good AM here. Also, because the antenna I have is not great. Alright, so I cleared the terminal. So now, we did AM. So why don't we do FM next? Yes, you can demodulate FM signals with this too. So, just like before, we're going to start out by typing RTL SDR. And then for the gain, you have to experiment with different values, but I'd say let's start out with gain of 30. 30 should be good for FM. And for a sample rate, we want something bigger. We actually want something bigger than 240,000 samples per second. We want more than that because the alias filter that RTL SDR uses to eliminate junk outside of the sampled bandwidth it's not optimal. So we need more filtering than what RTL SDR can provide us. So broadcast FM, what we're going to do is very, very wide. It's a lot more resource intensive to try to demodulate than AM and some other bands because it's so wide. It deviates by 75 kilohertz. Yeah, the frequencies are huge on FM. So you have to have a very wide sample rate and you have to demodulate at a very high sample rate as well. So for the sample rate, we will specify 2,400,000. Yes, I am not kidding. And then for a good frequency,
9.
Let's do a station that I know does not play music. Let's do 96.1 because I don't really want to get copyrighted on here. So you can just do 96.1 M for megahertz. And then always remember the dash, which tells RTL SDR to pipe to allow to pipe to another program. Otherwise, it will throw an error. You either have to put the dash or a file name if you want to. You can record with this too and demodulate later, and I will show some examples of that later. I have some recordings of narrowband FM that I will show off. So, okay, we're good there. Now, just like before, CSDR convert from character to float. Because remember, it's 8-bit. We need it in 32-bit float to be able to do anything with it. And now, so we have to decimate this. We can so 2,400,000 hertz has multiple stations in it. You can't just demodulate it as is. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the firdecimate filter, just like we did before, by a decimation factor of 10. And we don't want the transition bandwidth quite as aggressive for broadcast FM. So instead of 0.005, we'll just leave it at its default. So we don't even need to type anything for that. Okay.
CSDR.
Now, unfortunately, we have to demodulate at 240,000 samples per second because FM is that wide. So to do that, instead of typing CSDR AM demod, we type FM demod. That'll give us our audio. Now, FM by default has what's called pre-emphasis applied because FM static sounds very it's very high pitch. It's very hissy. It's not quite as noticeable on broadcast FM as it is narrowband FM, but it is noticeable. So to get rid of that, we have to de-emphasize the signal because the transmitter itself actually is pre-emphasized as well. And basically what pre-emphasis does is it boosts the highs. Basically that's so then when you undo that de-emphasis on the receiver side, which is what we have to do, you're basically getting rid of some of those highs to make the station sound like it's supposed to. And you're also getting rid of some of that static, so that's why it's pre-emphasized, so that the stations can still sound good, but the static isn't quite as high pitch, because it's very, very bad. Trust me, you do not want to listen to raw FM static because it's very high pitch. That's just how FM works. There's no real way to get around that, without de-emphasis and all that. So after FM demod, we do another instance of CSDR. Now the command we do for this is de-emphasis dash WFM for wideband FM. We have to give it our sample rate that we're using, which is 240,000 after decimation. Now to decimate FM in the US, or to de-emphasize FM in the US for broadcast FM, the number is 75E-6. In Europe, it's 50E-6. So we're going to type 75E-6 for the next parameter. And then at that point, we are ready to listen to the FM station. So to do that, we need to convert to 16-bit PCM. So CSDR convert -ifloat -o S16 pipe to SOX play -T is for type is S16, channels is 1, and then dash to tell it that we are playing we are playing from standard in. Now our sample rate right now is still 240,000 hertz. We need to resample that. We do not need those extra samples. So to do that, there is a way to resample in CSDR, but it is much better to use a program like SOX to resample this. So to resample it on the fly, after you specify play from standard in, we pass -R again. Now, FM really does not have content above 32,000 hertz, so we're going to specify 32,000 for this. Now, if we press enter, assuming I typed everything right, we'll hear our station. Clearly I didn't. Let me look at my command.
-2,400,000-996.1M -RCSDR convert -ichar -ofloat RCS firdecimate RCSDR FMdemod RCS reinforcing -W lang RC1 TS6 play -OS6 ifloat convert -CSDR lang Z to free R -1 C
oh dash so I know what I did. There we go.
I'm talking you, the Lions.
Yes.
Right?
Correct. Yeah. You're
Yep,
supposed to
that's
win
ESPN.
30 to 24. That's how you're
designed to win.
That's when they've been at their best with the swift moving offense. And then
So there we go. That's a sample of FM. Now the command for socks is play-t s16-c1-r, and the sample rate that you're passing in from standard in, which is 240,000, and then dash to specify that you're playing from standard in. Then you pass -r again with the sample rate you actually want socks to resample it to. You can do this in CSDR with the fractional decimator, but in my experience, it doesn't work the best, so it's best to just resample on the audio side of things, which is what I did. So anyway, we're done with that. Okay, so after FM, I'm not really able to play music, unfortunately, so that's why I picked that station. But you can tell it came in very clearly, so I clearly had my settings set correctly, because that was very clear. Okay, so after FM, there's two kinds of FM. One of them is broadcast FM, which is what we just listened to, also called wideband FM. The other type is narrowband FM. Now, narrowband FM is what two-way radios use and what ham radios use on like the 144 to 148 megahertz. And it's also what like GMRS and FRS radios use for communication. Yes, believe it or not, the FM that you are hearing, like the transmissions that you are hearing on those radios is a very similar type, if not exact type of FM that you are hearing on the radios. It's just, there's so much filtering on it, and it's a lot more narrow, so it's a lot harder to tell. But it's the same type of FM. However, it's a lot less ugly. And I will show you what I mean. We're going to demodulate NOAA weather radio right now. So to do that, we do RTL, SDR. Now for this, I would set the gain a little higher. I'd say about 60. That should be good enough. And then, unfortunately, the RTL SDR cannot go below a rate of 240,000 samples per second. So we have to sample it there. So -S240. And for the frequency, I'm going to set the frequency to 162.475 megahertz. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So 162.475 M dash pipe CSDR. You guys know, you guys should know this by now, because we do it every time we do anything with CSDR. So convert. Now we do need to decimate this. Shut up. CSDR, FIR decimate. Now we want a sample rate of 24,000 to 16,000 hertz. I will go with 24,000 right now because it's just the easiest. So to do that, we decimate by 10. 240,000 divided by 10 is 24,000 samples per second. That's all we need for narrowband FM. You really don't need to go more. And then for the transition bandwidth, we want it a little bit tighter. So we want 0.005, just like we did for AM. And we don't need to pass any more parameters. Pipe, CSDR, FM demod, just like we did for FM. I'm telling you, they are cousins. They are very closely related to one another, though you never would guess it. Pipe, CSDR. Now, I am going to wreck your guys' ears because I'm going to show you what unprocessed narrowband FM actually sounds like. It is not pleasant to listen to by any stretch of the imagination. So right after FM demod, we are just going to convert from float to 16-bit.
Was cloudy with a temperature
temperature of
that is no weather radio, and
FM
you can
Harbor,
clearly tell
32 at Kalamazoo,
there's
and
some
34
stuff
at
wrong
South
with
Haven.
that.
At Ludington, snow and haze were reported with a
You
temperature
can hear
of
it,
25.
but there's
At
aggressive
Holland,
static.
weather conditions were not available. In
I'm gonna
southeast
Okay, I'm gonna stop that. Let's go back up to our command,
RTL.
and we'll go through each step.
RTL line SDR -D60 -S240,000 -F162 .475M convert ichar offloat RCS firdecimate 0.005 RCSD FMM RCSDR CSDR space bar.
Now, one way you can somewhat fix this is by lowering the sample rate, but unless you're like lowering it to 8,000 hertz, like when you're playing it back for audio, you're going to get that hiss, and there's really not much that you can do about it. At least not by resampling. That's because narrowband FM has to be de-emphasized way more than broadcast FM or wideband FM. And that is because the lower the lower of frequency deviation you have, the less frequency deviation you have, the more hiss you're going to get when playing back. That's why broadcast FM works quite a bit better, and you either have a signal or you don't, compared to walkie-talkies and no weather radio. It's just because the frequency deviation is 12.5 kilohertz compared to FM, or broadcast FM, which is 75 kilohertz. So it's a lot more. So we have to apply de-emphasis. CSDR has a narrowband FM de-emphasis filter, but it only works at predefined sample rates. So, and I really don't like the way it sounds. It sounds okay, but it works at least on this version, you can do it at 48,000, 44,100, and then you can do it at 12,000, 11,025, and 8,000 hertz. But you can also just use the wideband FM de-emphasis filter and use a lot more aggressive de-emphasis, and it will work. In fact, this is what other programs do. GQRX actually does this. So, to do that, so right before we convert to 16-bit, we're going to do type CSDR de-emphasis -WFM. The rate that we have this set to after decimation is 24,000. Now, instead of 75E-6 for the number for the de-emphasis, we're going to use 530E-6. Now that's going to, if I just play it like that, that's going to make our audio
no showers.
extremely quiet.
Lows in the upper 20s. Wednesday, mostly cloudy.
So to get that, to fix that, after our de-emphasis command, we can increase the gain. So CSDR gain, and for this, I would say 2.0 to 2.5 should suffice. So let's try. Let's do 2.5. Now, if we play it back,
80% chance of snow showers. Lows 15 to 20. Friday, mostly cloudy.
That sounds good to me.
Highs in the lower 30s. Thanks for listening to NOAA Weather Radio Station WWF 36 in Hesperia, transmitting on a frequency of 1.
Now you can still tell there's a little bit of hiss. So if we want to eliminate the rest of the hiss, you can do low passing with SOX. So after the play command, you just type low pass. I do 4,000 and set the width to like 0.6 below 1, and then you get this.
The wind was north at 24 miles an hour, gusting to 38, producing a wind chill of 15. The pressure was 29.84 inches and rising. Across
that sounds a lot more
Lower
pleasant to
Michigan,
listen to than
at Fremont,
on
it was
like
sunny,
FM without any processing. It sounds a lot more pleasing
it was mostly
to the
sunny,
ear.
with a temperature of 32. At Grand Rapids, it was partly sunny, with a temperature of 31.
Okay.
It was cloudy.
I'm going to stop that. So you may be asking, why did I tune to 162.475 megahertz. Obviously, I could have tuned to any frequency. So here's the cool thing with software-defined radio. You can capture a chunk of spectrum at once. You can capture more than the frequency that you are tuned to. Right now, we are demodulating just our center, what's called the center frequency, and that frequency is what the SDR is tuned to. But it is very possible to shift the tuned frequency without changing the frequency that's tuned by the SDR itself. It's entirely possible to do that. And CSDR does allow that. So, to do it, you first need to sample higher than 240,000 samples per second, because the lower that you sample the physical hardware itself, the worse that your signal to noise ratio is going to be. You're going to get more noise in the audio than you might like. So instead of 240,000 like I was doing, 960,000. That's what I would do. Now that's more than we need, and I'll explain that. SDR's sample rate, it basically determines how much you can capture. So for NOAA weather radio, which is plus or minus 75 kilohertz, the band starts at 162.4 megahertz and ends at 162.55. That's 150 kilohertz in total. So we need at least 150,000 samples per second to capture all of that. But of course the SDR can't sample that low, and you want headroom because the edges of your sampled bandwidth, the sides, as some people call it, have what's called roll-off, and roll-off will weaken your signal, and it will introduce hiss and sometimes even whine that you don't want. There, a high pitch like whine that you do not want in the audio. So you need to sample higher than that and decimate. So the way that I would do it, and that I have done it, is RTL SDR, gain of 60, sample rate of 960,000 samples per second, keep it at 162.475 megahertz, CSDR convert, keep all that as normal, convert from 8-bit to float, and then before FIR decimate, here's where we would use our shift command. Now let me explain shifts. You shift relative to your sampled bandwidth from minus 0.5 to 0.5. Now it's backwards from what you would think, because minus 0.5 actually increases the frequency. Negative numbers will increase the frequency. And 0.5, that's actually the lowest frequency that you can tune to. And that's because the math is center frequency minus the frequency of interest, called the tuned frequency. You calculate that first. Then you divide that by the sample rate. So yes, the sample rate, like the shift, is relative to the sample rate. That's how CSDR has you do that. So to do that, pipe CSDR shift, and then here's where things get interesting. You can't do floating. You can't do float in Bash. So you actually have to use something that can. One way you can do it is through BC, which I do have installed. That's the calculator in the terminal. Or you can use Python 3. The official documentation says to use Python 3, but you can use BC, and I personally like using that better. So to do that, we are going to do a command substitution. And then echo, cancel, quote. And now we have to do parentheses because we need to calculate the shift. Like we need to calculate the offset first. So 162.475. We got to do this in hertz. Now let's say I want to tune to West Olive on 162.425 megahertz. So minus 162.425.000, right parenthesis, divided by 960,000. So we echo that. We echoed that to the terminal. Now we need to pipe it to BC. So pipe BC. To get BC to show decimals, you have to pass -L. And then you can do a right parenthesis. Now that goes between the convert and firdecimate to shift the frequency. So the full command for shift looks like this.
CSDR space SHIFT space dollar left paren ECHO space quote 1 6 1 left paren space left paren 1 6 2 4 7 5 0 0 0 dash 1 6 2 4 2 5 0 0 0 right paren slash 9 6 0 0 0 0 quote space bar space C space dash L right paren space bar space CSDR space FIR
and then CSDR firdecimate. You get the point. But if I press enter here and actually bother to change my decimation factor,
0 space 0 1 0 1 6 insert caret 6 0 speech
please
speech enabled
is
RTLR RCS shift dollar left quote my right for 6 0 Z60 space 6
Sorry.
Z space low C1 dash R20 S60 S6 dash R24 0 4 2 1 6
let's do 16. There we go.
Snow and haze were reported with a temperature of 10.
There's West Olive.
In neighboring states, Milwaukee was 32 degrees under cloudy skies. In Chicago, it was cloudy and the temperature was 30.
Now if I want to shift, let's say I want to shift to 162.550.
RTLR R dash dash S dash F force dash margin dash R shift dollar left paren space to left 1 6 2 4 7 5 0 dash 1
You change
162.425
to 550, and then you get this.
Cloudy and temperatures were between 31 and 32 degrees. Across northern lower Michigan, at Traverse City, snow was falling
Pretty cool.
with a temperature of 21.
Okay, but let's say you're listening and you want to shift as the audio is being played. So to do that, there is such a thing in Linux called a FIFO, which stands for first in, first out, also called a named pipe. But CSDR can read data from this FIFO to know how to shift, or like when to shift the frequency and to what frequency you want to shift. So to use a FIFO instead of typing the number directly, erase the command substitution, which I'm going to do right now. And then instead of doing a command substitution to try and find a number, we're just going to do dash FIFO, and then I already have a FIFO created, so slash TMP slash frequency, FREQ for frequency. And now nothing will start unless something is reading this FIFO. So what we do, we're going to say BC dash L greater slash TMP slash frequency. Now if we play this,
Sault Ste. Marie with 11
there's our audio
mixed
right there.
precipitation, and in Marquette,
Now if I want to
snow and
shift,
haze were reported with
let's
a
say I want to
temperature
shift to
of
West
10.
Olive, it's easy enough as just typing
Milwaukee was 32 degrees under
162.475,
cloudy
which is our
skies.
center frequency, 0, 0, 0, minus
Chicago, it was cloudy and the temperature was
162.425,
37.
0, 0, 0,
Green Bay
divided
was
by
28
the
degrees under
sample rate,
sunny
which is
skies.
960,000.
Once again, at 3 hours, possibly mixed with snow
There's West
showers.
Olive, just like that.
Lows in the upper
Now another way
50s.
you can do it,
Wednesday,
if you want to just use
cloudy
kilohertz,
with a 50%
you
chance
can.
of snow showers,
So
possibly
the
mixed with
offset
rain showers.
between West
Highs in
Olive
the lower
and
30s.
Hesperia
Wednesday
on
night,
162.
mostly
So the
cloudy
offset
with a
between
30% chance of snow showers.
162.475
20s.
megahertz
Thursday, mostly
or
cloudy with a 30% chance of snow showers.
175
around
kilohertz minus
Thursday night, partly
162,425
cloudy with a 20% chance of snow showers.
kilohertz is
Lows 15 to 20.
And the sample rate right now is technically 960 kilosamples per second ks/s.
Thanks for listening to
So
NOAA Weather Radio
the shorthand
station
to
WXN
shift
99 in
is
West
just,
Olive,
if we type
transmitting
0,
on a
that'll
frequency
shift
winds
us back to our
5
center
15
frequency.
miles per hour.
But instead of typing that whole like
Up to 40 miles
162.475.000 minus,
midnight.
you can just type in
Saturday,
50, which
mostly
is
sunny with a
the offset
50%
divided
chance of
by
snow showers.
960,
Highs was not available.
and you get that.
Across the remainder of western lower
Now let's
Michigan,
say I want to
at
shift
Sparta,
to
it was mostly sunny, with a
162.55 where
temperature of 32.
Canonsburg/Grand
It was
Rapids.
partly sunny with a temperature
that.
of 31 at Grand Rapids.
To
and
shift
29
there,
at Muskegon.
162,475 kilohertz
32 at
minus
Kalamazoo, and
162,550
At
kilohertz
Ludington, snow and haze were
is
reported with a temperature of
minus
25.
75
In
kilohertz.
southeast
So to
lower
shift
Michigan,
to that
it was
frequency, we do
cloudy,
minus
and the
75
temperatures were
divided
32
by
degrees.
960.
0.55 megahertz.
Easy enough.
The current time is 3:37 p.m. Eastern
And then
Standard
to
Time.
shift back to center, we just type
Conditions
0.
around the area. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with a 20%
Ooh,
chance
wireless
of rain
glitching.
showers.
That was what we just heard.
Highs in the upper 30s.
Alright,
Tuesday
to
night,
stop
cloudy
this, we
with a
just
4
Control-C it. So that was demodulating one station and one station only. But let's say I wanted to demodulate multiple. Well, there's two ways of doing this. One of them is to record IQ data, which I will show, and you can just demodulate that as need be multiple times, or whatever, if you want to listen to it back. But let's say you want to do it in real time. To do it in real time, you can stream IQ data over the network and just netcat in as localhost. So the way you do this, CSDR, the CSDR program is not the only thing that CSDR ships with, because CSDR was written for a piece of software called OpenWebRx, which is a web interface for listening to SDR signals that multiple users can connect to. It's very over-engineered in my opinion. It's got like a chat and everything. I have used it. It's very inaccessible, but that is what CSDR was mainly built to use. And because CSDR, like OpenWebRx, obviously has to give multiple users data simultaneously, there is a way to do this. So CSDR has a utility called nmux, which is what OpenWebRx uses to do this. And what nmux does, unlike netcat, you just, I believe you only can connect to netcat once, which netcat will work, but nmux is a TCP stream multiplexer, which means each client that connects to it will receive the same data. So you could just pipe data from RTL SDR to nmux and use netcat with it, which is what we're going to do right now. So to do this, we're going to type RTL SDR dash G60 dash F, and then the frequency is
162.475. Capital MF1R, space.
And then we do need to do it past our sample rate, so 960,000. That's what I recommend.
Dash 960,000.
And then dash to tell it to go to standard out. Then we'll do a pipe symbol,
Bar.
which is vertical bar, and then nmux dash A for the address. And to allow any client to connect, you just type 0.0.0.0.0. And it will start streaming to that port.
0.0.
And then for the port, Let's just do 7,355.
7,355. Found one device left. Current S right. Current colon.
Okay,
N max colon.
so we get
Listening on 0
this
0 0
output.
0 colon 7,355 0 colon RTL SDR log before SN colon 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 using device 0 colon generic RTL 2832 UAM. Found raw file micro
Okay,
828.
now we have to open up
Menu tab blank.
two more terminals. So we open up this one here, and then we open up another one here.
Menu tab. Carrot left, LX, start using maps at map, LX, kilo maps at map.
I gotta go into distro box for this.
ISDR, RO, distro, SDR, enter, DIN, package left, start maps at map.
And again.
ISDR, DOS, distro, SDR, enter, DIN, Debian, package left, kilo minus 9 order, map.
And I'm gonna go ahead.
LX, kilo map,
and netcat.
NC.
127.0.1 to a space, type in the port.
7,355.
Now, if we just hit enter right now, we will see raw IQ data get printed to our terminal, and it's going to mess up our terminal. So instead, let's do the same thing that we did before with CSDR. CSDR.
Convert. Dash I
from
ichar
to float. CSDR. Now, let's say I don't want to shift. Let's say I want to stay on the center frequency for this. We just go straight to decimation.
FIRDECIMATE 6 0 60 0 0 5 0 bar CSDR CSF M P P P L P amdemod bar CSDR CSD PMPA SISD WFM 16 0 dash 5 6 bar CRP RCSDAIN gain 2.2 2 bar CSDR CSDR CONVERT convert dash I LOAT dash ifloat dash OS 16 dash OS6 bar PLA 1 dash CS 16 SDS 16 dash C1 dash C1 dash R 16 ZZ dash R 16,000 dash.
And just like this,
partly cloudy in the evening, then becoming mostly cloudy.
There's our
a
stream.
20% chance of snow showers.
Now this is going over the network
lows 15 to 20
on localhost right now.
Friday,
that's how we're
mostly
listening to
cloudy.
This. But let's say I want
to
get another station going at the same time.
Radio station
we are getting clipping. Let me decrease that a little bit. Let's do 2.0
megahertz.
That'll get rid of that.
The current time is 3:43
and
Eastern Standard Time.
We have another terminal open here, so I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did before. Let's see. 127.0.0.1 convert.
Relative humidity 58%.
Charge. I'm going to shift this time to 162.425 megahertz. So we're going to do echo 960
Fremont. It was sunny with a temperature of 27.
L. Cancel!
At Sparta, it was mostly sunny with a temperature of 32. At Grand
and then
it was
keep going as
sunny
usual.
with a temperature of 31. It was cloudy with a temperature of 33 at Benton Harbor, 32 at Kalamazoo, and 34 at South. At Ludington, snow and haze were reported with a temperature of 25. The weather conditions were not available. In southeast lower Michigan, it was cloudy, and the temperatures were 32 degrees. Across northern lower Michigan, temperatures were between 19 and 25 degrees. Snow was falling at Cadillac, Manistee, and Traverse City. It was partly sunny.
And just like this, we should be listening to the two stations at once.
Mixed precipitation. In Marquette, cloudy snow and haze were reported with a temperature of 10, possibly mixed with rain showers.
Yeah.
Milwaukee,
that's what you can do with an SDR. We are listening to two stations simultaneously. Now let's say I want to get a third one going of Grand Rapids. I am going to do this.
Winds were northeast at 24 miles and the low temperature was 31 degrees. Thanks for listening to No Wind Radio Station WXM 93 transmitting on a frequency of now here is your local 45 megahertz. Through early evening, mostly cloudy with a 30% chance of snow shower Eastern Standard.
You can hear they're clearly both playing.
Conditions north wind area into 25 miles per hour with a report to around 40 miles per hour. Across the remainder of this one, northern Michigan, percent chance of snow showers, mostly sunny. Low under Lake Michigan and 5 to 10 above inland. With a temperature north wind at 1 miles per hour. 29 at this up to 40 miles per hour, decreasing to 30 miles per hour eventually. 32 at Kalamazoo, mostly sunny with 50% chance of snow showers. In Ludington, snow and highs in the lower 20s with a temperature of 1 northwest wind to 10 miles per hour. To 20 miles per hour in the mornings. Saturday night, mostly cloudy with a 50% snow shower, 25 degrees, lows 10 to 15, falling at Cadillac winds. And Sunday, mostly cloudy with rapids.
Oh yeah.
In the upper southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Degrees with mixed precipitation. Wednesday night,
We are playing 3 stations at once, and I could go further than that, but I'm not going to. So same thing, just different frequency shift.
Chance of snow in the lower 30s. Was cloudy highs around 30. Mostly cloudy.
So I'm going to control C all of these.
In the mid-20s under sunny skies. Tuesday, mostly once again at 3 p.m. The report from home.
And control C on that. So there we go. Yeah, that was a lot. But that's how you can use CSDR to get multiple stations. Now, another thing I've done, and I will show this quickly. If I, let's say, I'm going to open up another terminal here. I have some pre-recorded files in here. So if I CD them, get out of here. These are in here in this directory are pre-recorded files that I've taken of some stuff. Now, primarily what I've mainly done recordings of the required weekly tests. But you can manipulate the recordings the exact same way that you would a regular continuous stream. It's just done differently. Instead of using RTL SDR or netcat, you just cat the file and you do the exact same processing on it that you would with a real stream. So to do that, you just cat. Now my sample rate on this one is way lower. It's 160,000. I decimated it and saved it. So I'm going to change a few things in here. Including using a FIFO for better control. So instead of if I were decimating by 60, we only need to decimate by 10 to get a 16,000. Get 16,000 samples per second out of 160,000. And FMDemod, re-emphasize as usual. Now this does have EAS tones. I will warn you guys now. And I'm gonna go in another terminal, -L, BC-L, I can shift as I'm playing this file. It's actually really cool because you can get multiple stations this way. You can even save each output to an audio file if you guys know how to use SOCs. I'm not going to demonstrate that here, but it is very easy to do. But if I just start playing,
100%.
There will be EAS tones.
Snow showers.
But let's say I want to tune the West Dongle. 50 instead of 100, instead of 960, we are at 160. And I'm just gonna press enter. There's a bit of a delay when doing this. I don't know why, but it will shift. There we go. It just shifted. And this is West Olive. Now let's say I want
This
to
is
go
the
back
National Weather
to,
Service in
let's go back to
Grand
the center.
Rapids. The
Let's
signal
type
you
0.
just heard was our weekly test of the NOAA
Just
weather
like I was
radio
doing
warning
before.
alarm system. We normally
And
conduct this test on Wednesdays
Here
around
is
11:15 in the morning.
Grand
However,
Rapids,
if there's a threat of
Cannonsburg on
severe weather on Wednesday,
162.55.
we'll postpone the test
75
until the
divided by
next available
160.
good weather day. Be advised that weather conditions will affect the test. We'll activate the warning alarm tone for
And
hazardous watches
back
and warnings
to
for the
center.
following counties. On 162.40 megahertz from Onondaga, 0 megahertz from Onondaga. Those counties are Brandon,
So how cool is that? So if that is like, that's super cool that you can do that, and that's all command line. It's very neat how CSDR works. It was built with pipes in mind, and you get to control every step of what it does. So I think it's super cool. And also, fun fact, I use CSDR as part of my pipeline for streaming too. I run 2 streams on West Weather Radio. For those of you that do not know, I run the stream for WXN99 in West Olive, and I run a second stream of for Cannonsburg, which is WZ2560. I run both of those streams, and currently they're down right now as I'm trying to demonstrate CSDR and a bunch of stuff like that. But I run those streams using Liquid Soap and CSDR. So that is actually how I do those streams, and it works really well for what I use it for. I use Nmux to get the IQ data, just like I was doing, and then I netcat it, and then I send it out to IceCast through Liquid Soap. So yeah, pretty cool how that works. And it's the system that I have set up for it is rock solid, because it doesn't go offline unless there's a power outage, in which case we don't have internet, or unless there's a power outage, unless the internet goes down, or most of the time it's because I deliberately take the streams offline to mess with my SDR. But yes. And also, for those of you that are wondering, my feed of WXN99, Liquid Soap allows multiple outputs, and I'm now streaming that to weatherusa.net in addition to West Weather Radio. So just so more people have access to it. So yeah. So I've got 2 streams going, and one of them is being sent to multiple places. Liquid Soap can do that. It's ingenious how it works. I actually really like it. So yeah, I will put the Git Hub for this in the description of the video. If you have Ubuntu or Debian, you can just sudo apt install CSDR and you can get this. But GitHub has a lot of good documentation on how this works. And you can also, with this version of CSDR, you can do CSDR-help, and it gives you all the commands. And if I want help with a specific command, I can do CSDR-help, like say, example, shift.
Signal in the frequency domain usage, CSDR shift left bracket option, right bracket left bracket rate right bracket positional, rate float amount shift relative to the sampling rate option, dash help print list help message and then dash FIFO text control FIFO package left bracket max at Nebulate.
Yes, the control FIFO, which is what I passed to it to control it live. So yeah, that is pretty cool that can be done. Alright, well that's it for this video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.